Donk Nation, Jax and Janet's greetings and welcome to your daily dose of donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, bringing you the last episode of preseason Steelers talk. I don't know how we want to phrase this, but it's just me here today. We're going to try our best to break down what we saw over the preseason. Since last time we talked, we had the disaster that was the Bills game, and yeah, no want to talk about that. We've seen Cameron Johnson really start performing. The punter I called out had a great time. We had a better game against Detroit, albeit playing starters versus backups essentially. But the offense got it done, got it moving. After a terrible looking screen pass, Russ Wilson makes a good pass down the sideline. We see a big run by Cordero Patterson. And there's some hope. Justin Fields also leads a touchdown drive. But the Steelers finish fake football 0-3. No big deal. Schedule's wiped clean. Before the next game, hopefully we'll have Laskers and Gingy to break down some Steelers talk, get into what we're looking for in the regular season, see how this roster has formulated itself, how it's come to be, as we're going to see some breakdowns. I'm not sure in position battles if there's really guys who stuck out. Like, you look at that last defensive end position, is there a guy who really won that battle? It didn't seem so. You look at that last edge rusher. Doesn't look like very many guys won the battle. Offensive line looks like we're going to have to keep some we didn't plan on with Big Bro Herbig being done for the year. There's a Dylan Cook getting injured as well. The not roll, what you want to call him, the outside rotating tackle. So I don't know. I don't know how to view this preseason. I mean, it's good, it's bad, it's ugly, it was successful, it was very unsuccessful. And by successful, I mean, Cameron Johnson looked awesome out there. You gotta love what you saw there. For the most part, the Steelers avoiding major injuries to a major player. We're also looking out there. Maybe now we understand why they were so desperate to bring back Cam Sutton as the cornerback, specifically slot corner spot looks absolutely abysmal. There's good, there's bad, there's ugly, there's great with baby bro Herbig, little Herbig staying healthy and absolutely cranking up the sack numbers when he's going against these backup offensive linemen. We've shown the ability against starters last year in role situations. He's not the biggest guy, so using him situationally in pass rush is definitely going to be ideal. And he's one of the really few bright spots of the preseason that continued. You have a guy like Weshloff, who came out of nowhere, undrafted guy out of Charlotte that maybe has a chance at making the team because of the way he played that last preseason game. You saw other guys, the 6th-round draft, I can't think of his name, the kid from Texas absolutely struggled. Beanie Bishop not playing. Corey Trice looking not good. Man, I mean, there's a lot of guys who are those fringe bubble guys who just, I'll be honest, I don't know who did enough to make the roster, who didn't. You're going to see a running back who looked decent in the preseason, whether it be P. Ryan or the likes of that, not make this roster. Looks like my undrafted guys probably both won't be coming through, the ones I really liked. So I don't know what to make of this. Biggest losers of the day, definitely the Steelers' number 2 wide receiver. No one's stepping up. The biggest step up you saw were those fringe roster guys. Scotty Miller looked good through the preseason, and Des Fitzpatrick also really making a mark in the preseason. Maybe those are guys who get these last few roster spots. Innovation, not something you're going to see in the preseason. We got to wait for the regular season for that. Let's hope that's all good and well. Maybe some consistency on special teams. We'll break this down, and we'll break it down position group by position group. Let's start on the offense. Let's start at the quarterbacks, and let's start with underwhelmed. I mean, Russ is who Russ was last year in Denver. Fry all looks. I don't know if that gets it done. I mean, that's a team that was willing to pay him a lot of money for him to not be there. Is that the guy who's going to save it? Justin Fields looked like Justin Fields regressed from what he was in Chicago, which is hard to say. He looked worse as a passer, looked less confident as a runner, and the results look like they'll be worse than they were at Chicago, and they were pretty terrible at Chicago. Now, albeit to be playing with an elite defense this time, but really, I mean, Russ looks like he is who he is. Justin Fields looked like he took a step backwards. And John Rice Plumlee, can he just make the team and be a kick returner? Because it'd be really cool to stash him. If not, I know he has a pretty good chance at going to the UFL. I think he was drafted third overall in their draft. But he looked kind of fun to watch, and I wouldn't mind keeping him there. Let's move on to running backs. They are what they are. Najee is who he is. If the line's going to play good, he'll look good. Cordero Patterson's a guy who still has that explosive step, but will age catch up to him. We've already seen him deal with other injuries. How long does that body hold up? How many carries can he take? And Jaylen Warren being on the shelf already is not a good sign, and a hamstring is not a good sign. That's a thing that can linger. He said if he could be playing right now, but that's the thing. You rush back, that can all of a sudden become an 8-week injury. I don't know how I feel about that, but running back crew on par where they should be, looking pretty good. An explosive run out of Cordero in the preseason was nice to see. Wide receiver crew, okay. Let's start. George Pickens still looks pretty darn good. I mean, he still makes fantastic catches. If you can keep him in there giving effort all game long, got a pretty darn good receiver there. The rest of it, Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins, Roman Wilson due to injury. No one stepped up out of that group. The bottom tier group, Scotty Miller looked like the safety valve for Fields for a few games, and Des Fitzpatrick looked pretty good time in, time out. I'm just really worried there's no, and I said this before, there's no number 2 on this team, and with Roman Wilson not getting the snaps I was hoping he would so he could work in at the start of the year, a little worried there at wide receiver. Tight ends, they are what they are. Freiermuth is a decent receiver who can't block. You have Washington, who's a pretty good blocker who can't really run a route because he looks like a three-legged donkey. I heard someone say once, and it made me chuckle. But if you watch him run the routes, he has no idea where he's going. And Baby Hayward's okay. I mean, little bro Hayward plays pretty decent and is what it is. That's a group where really you need to figure out what you're going to be the identity of this team to figure out which one's going to work the best. But a group that they'll just, through the preseason, they'll keep their blah title, much like the running backs did. Offensive line, this is a group that scares the heck out of me. Losing Big Bro Herbig means there is absolutely zero depth at the position now. Losing Dylan Cook hurts the depth on the outside. Troy Fontanu's working his way back from injury. Broderick Jones looks like an absolute lost puppy out there. All the people in the draft saying his biggest problem is he doesn't engage well with his hands. In the NFL, that is getting absolutely exposed, and it feels like he's getting worse the more time he spends getting coached by Meyer. And maybe it's time to let Meyer go and bring in someone who can develop these guys because no one's developed under him. Simualu still looks good. Daniels looked stepping in. Frazier looks in the middle. I mean, he had a good spot last week against Detroit, but when you're playing a bunch of backups, you better have a good spot if you're going to be a starter out there. And Detroit's not a team that had very good defense last year, let's recall. They were starting random pickups at defensive tackle. That's how bad it was for them. And we got demolished by a decent to good defensive line in Buffalo. So really underwhelming on the offensive line. And when the fact is Dan Moore Jr. might be your best tackle, that's cause for concern. Now let's flip the ball over to the defense side of the ball. Ogunjobi showed a good first step. If he can stay healthy, maybe he has that going. Benton looked okay. You saw flashes from DeMarvin Leal. You saw flashes from Lowry, the free agent addition. There could be some good things going on in that defensive line if they stay healthy and Cam turns out to be the player he has been and deserves a contract extension as he wants to talk about. But the front three look okay. I won't say good. I won't say bad. They look okay, which that's solid when you consider the outside linebackers look like studs right now. I know that Highsmith had the injury, and he didn't play that great last year, but, I mean, Baby Herbig looked really good, and if you were able to put someone beside TJ, that's a huge upgrade there. The depth guys, you saw a little bit of flash from guys like Jamario Moon, other guys like Westloff in the last game. You saw some guys show some flash, so maybe there's some potential in there as well. We get to middle linebacker. I mean, Patrick Queen, you saw him out of spots on a few big runs where he over pursued, missed the gap. That's what you're going to see with him. You duel that with a Landon Roberts, who's the same kind of guy. You have a very we'll go Gingy style here. You have a very heavy splash central in there with guys who can get there and make big plays, but also can get burned. That's Queen. That's a Landon Roberts. That's Wilson going out there. The rookie who had the concussion injuries might be a little concerned. He is a little small. And then you saw some other guys step in and do some good things. I really liked Robinson on special teams. I think he really stepped up. That could be huge. And no Cole Holcomb might be a big knock against the Steelers. I mean, he's a guy we took a chance with coming out of from Washington. Good player when he was healthy, but's hurt a lot. He came here, looked like a really good player, gets hurt again. It just seems like he can't get out of his own way, and that's unfortunate because I think he would have fit really well as the disciplined guy with this mix of explosive players they put there. Now, when we get to the backside, I mean, you didn't really see Minka play, but I mean, KZ, Elliott, none of them, Ryan, none of them looked good. Killebrew actually had a preseason interception because Trubisky threw one, which, by the way, shout out to Bug because he goes, oh, Trubisky's playing for the Bills. He's about to throw an interception, and the next play he did. So super shout out to him. He apparently has the magic thing for the call because as well in today's Pirates game, he goes, Grandal's about to hit a walk-off home run here, and he did. So, kid seems to really have the prediction thing going. I'm going to have to start making those real-time bets based off what he says because he's really got it rolling there in picks recently. And Killebrew, man, he's a great special teamer. You know what he brings there. If he can bring depth to the safety spot, that's a huge win. And he's looking to get more comfortable in this defense. So you got the depth piece there. Joey Porter Jr., he showed what he is. He's a very capable coverage guy who's a bit too handsy. He really needs to work on that or he's going to draw a lot of flags because it looks like refs are looking at that specifically from him this year. So got to see that improve. Donta Jackson's exactly what he was in Carolina. He's a guy who'll have a good game, bad game, good game, bad game. You're not going to get any consistency over there on that side is what it seems. Maybe the Steelers find a way to work around that, and we've seen it before where they scheme zones where essentially that side is double protected. I really like to think back to the year where we played good defense and for the whole year, we're hiding James Pierre on the side where he only got exposed a little bit. Maybe we do that. Maybe Donta Jackson, as he learns the defense, takes that step forward. I mean, athletic-wise, he looked fast enough this preseason, looked a little quicker than he did in the last season's Carolina tape that I saw, but still much to be desired. The rest of them, Rush, Beanie Bishop, Ryan, Corey Trice, I didn't see a single one that stepped up and looked good. Probably the guy who looked the best was Arnett, and he's the guy who got waived with an injury. So I don't know what to say there. Kicking-wise, Boswell's hopefully still Boswell. Kuhn is still Kuhn as they're snapping the ball. And Cameron Johnston, after I called him out in that first bad game, just absolutely booming him like 50-yard average. That's what we need. If we're going to be this boring football team, the punter might be the MVP for the offensive side and just flipping the field. And if we can do that, that would be huge. And I know this sounds terrible, but the Steelers' depth corners suck, and our special teams gunners didn't look that good. Is a reunion with James Pierre out of the question? I mean, he who shall not be named might struggle in coverage, but I'll tell you, at this point, looking at those other guys, I'd rather have a guy who could play spectacular special teams on a team that's going to need to flip the field. Hopefully he never sees the field on defense. It's just there for special teams. James Robinson, and Miles Killebrew take those three spots for me. As the bring back of Tyler Matakevich did not really impress me this season. Sorry, Gingy, but Dirty Red to me should not take the spot from Robinson. I think Robinson's faster and a better special teamer at this point in their career. I think you get three special teams aces out there. Let it roll, let it ride. Let's see what happens. Really not going to make any roster predictions for this Steelers team because I haven't dove in depth enough to really see where we're going, who we're going to keep, what we're going to do there. Guys I thought would make it, I already told you, like Beanie Bishop, I'm not really sure about. But that's my take on the preseason. I mean, it's preseason. We won't push the panic button. There are causes for concern, like I said. The offensive line losing one-on-one battles. We're not That's the biggest cause of concern for me is not winning those one-on-one battles on a team that wants to run it. It feels very much like this year is going to play out like last year. Very similar style of play, very similar style of result, very similar. Yes, this team could go 12-5. Yes, this team could go 5-12. Neither one of those will surprise me. What would surprise me is if this team is capable of being competitive in the playoffs. That's where I think they have to be, and I don't think that's where they are, at least not yet. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I'm overreacting from the preseason, underreacting from the preseason. Should we light everything on fire because we couldn't really get anything going and we didn't even scare 20 points during the whole preseason? It is what it is. We'll see what happens. We'll see what the Steelers can make of it going into the regular season. And hopefully, since the back half of our schedule, at least in appearance, is going to be absolutely terrible, hopefully we can roll off some early wins and get that just absolutely going so that we have that momentum for that tough stretch after the bye week. I guess that means it's time for a shout out. Who do I give a shout out to? You know what? Been going to a couple concerts recently. JD got to go to his first one. Bugga came along with that. We went and saw Justin Moore. I felt he put on a really good show. Apparently, I was going to concerts where all the songs are like a decade-ish old with one or two new songs, and I actually expected a little more new songs, but it was mostly songs that I remember from when I would have really been into catching them at concert like Justin Moore, and that was cool. And then a shout out to Hailstorm, Lizzie Hale, coming up here, killing it. Her vocals in person are so much more impressive than her vocals on album, which is hard to say because, man, she has impressive vocals anytime you hear her, but as a live show was absolutely fantastic. So that's two fantastic live shows I've got to see recently. And like I said, the big shout out's got to be those two and JD getting to go see his first concert. It was a fun time. It was very enjoyable. Yes, that means it's time to let you know I'm the Viking Donkey. That's Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger is the YouTube channel where you get this fun content. Tune in. We're going to break down the Steelers roster decisions. We're going to break down any big surprises that we felt going. And by we, I mean I should have Laskers, I should have Gingy, or at least one of them. And we'll break down how we see the season going early, what's going on. Make sure you tune in next time. Make sure after every game you tune in to hear the bug cap. I'm going to be absolutely sure to get those done and done quickly this year. And Dog Nation, Steeler Nation, it's really close to being that time where it matters. So wave them if you got them. Here we go.